Alrighty, good morning everyone and welcome to the finale, to the Gluttony Devcom. We are taking on the last Citadel. It's the middle one, it's the hardest one by far, and we're saving it for last on purpose. And this one was made by Kango. And a couple things to note, there's a couple mechanics that were intended to be used by Kango. So one of which is the use of Riptide. As you can see, there's actually real water in the area, not doom water. And that's because since the structure is so big, a lot of traversal between a lot of spaces is intended to be used with Riptide. In hindsight, I probably should have added another Riptide item pedestal outside the entrance, just to kind of hint to the player that we do intend you to use Riptide here. And another thing that the mechanic uses, another mechanic intended to be used, is the usage of Doom Water. So there's these sections filled with Doom Water, which is essentially waterlogged barriers. And in this area, in this biome, a lot of, in certain Y levels, waterlogged barriers will actually damage you 20 times a second, which is insanely brutal. And some of the mobs also have shoot you with the Doom Water effect. So when they'll shoot you, you'll take like an entire like 20 damage in 1 second. But each damage is it's just like getting damaged once, but every tick, which is pretty brutal. And that glowing red mob over there, that is actually not a treasure giant. It is a random custom mob I added called the Titan of Immortality. It's basically just a bog that has a 99 damage brick. And the brick was actually an item the player could get across the map. It's just like a one-time 99 damage consumable. Kind of like when you see in older maps, there's those 1 durability gold swords with like sharpness at 1000. This is kind of like the same thing. It's just like a one durability brick with 99 attack damage. But I kind of just removed it from the map because it was kind of bleh. I didn't really like it. So it's gone now, but the skeletons here have them, and they also have 99 KVT totems. Not like the same thing as not the exact item, but it's just 99 totems in their offhand with the item model of the little unique, which is cool. So how the area kind of works is, as you can see down there, the waterlogged barriers that have magma blocks under them are doom water. So it's a huge hazard in this area because you can get easily knocked in. Fortunately for us, we've got the knockback res and wind charges, which will let us get out of the doom water if we fall in, because we actually have a lot of leeway before we can even fall in. Like, first of all, it takes a long time to fall in. Second of all, I think it actually respects our armor. So even though we're getting damaged 20 times a second, we still have a ton of damage mitigation from our armor. And doom water is affected by that. It just damages you so fast, which is why it can kill you, because it is 20 damage every second, but you can get out of it. It's not like instant kill. It's not true damage, or else you'd literally die in like a second and a half, which is not the case. And you can also heal yourself, wind charge yourself out, place blocks under yourself. But these side sections overall are not that scary. And another thing I want to point out is that the middle Citadel, while it is the hardest, it has some of the worst loot among the Citadels, and that's intentional. That's because I want to and here you can see that's what it feels like to get hit by the doom water. You don't actually it's not actually that visually disorienting for us because our damage tilt is actually really low. And yeah, it helps a lot for sure. But yeah, the reason why the loot is so bad here is because a lot of people, kind of as I mentioned in the Greenwall video, will come here first, assuming it will have the black wool. And technically, it is intended to be the black wool, but as I mentioned, it won't have the black wool because the last 3 wools dynamically change based off of the order you open them in, based off the order you open the glass in. So when you start, they all start as green wool, and then when you open any of the wools, the remaining ones turn red into red wool. And then when you open another one, it turns the last one into black wool. So right now, since we opened up 2 of the final wolves. The last one is black, which is currently the one we are in. And I forgot to mention this, but in that last section we did with the red carpets and trap doors, that actually has it's a funny little section because it's a Squid Game ripoff. It's the glass platforms, but one side has you can stand on, and the other side has Doom water, which is pretty funny. I'm not gonna show you a picture of it, but you'll just have to believe me. But as you can probably tell, this area is not only harder because of the insane amount of Doom water. Well, it's mainly hard because of the insane amount of hazard from the Doom water, but there is a lot of spawner clusters, like and like fun boxes and stuff, which is pretty deadly because it just naturally means there's like 2 or 3 times as many mobs in this citadel than like per encounter than the other ones. So you're definitely gonna at least want the AoE from at least one of the OP Cardo items, or the red wool effect, which casts an AoE, like a pretty powerful AoE whenever you kill a mob, which that can chain over and over again. But since our playthrough has like everything put together, we'll have a pretty reasonable time, not that much trouble. And all we need to do is not get trapped in the Doom water and not get insta-killed by a charge creeper, because that, even though we have full armor and all these OP enchants and all this insane amounts of effective HP and healing and stuff, we can still get insta-killed. So that's pretty much the only thing we really have to look out for at this point. Even on max difficulty, even on challenge mode, we can still survive. We can still get insta-killed, but we can still survive the average gameplay loop. Because just look at this. There's like fucking 10 spawners here, and we just set them all off, insta kill all the mobs at once, and we can just deal with all the spawners. A slight downside, unfortunately, is since we are breaking the spawners, like a lot of these spawners with TNT, it's going to reflect on our stats that we didn't mine as many spawners as we technically should have. I probably could have fixed this by making it so the spawners dropped an item that just killed itself and added the nearest player's spawners mined stat, which probably would have been a more accurate reflection. So at the end of the video, I'm going to be overviewing a lot of like 20-something people's stats of their completions, which will be pretty cool. But the spawners mined stat won't reflect the true spawners mined. It is technically just the spawners mined, but unfortunately it doesn't include the amount of the spawners that have been blown up. But that's okay. It's not really that big a deal. And we'll get back to that at the end of the video. But yeah, this is by far the hardest citadel. It has it's a pretty hard to have a stable footing here because there's just so many spots, especially in the more lucrative spots like here. When you're near the bottom of the area, you can easily get knocked down to the Doom water, and a lot of people just aren't ready to get out of it. But that's okay, especially with the Trident drowns that kind of destroy your movement stability. They just kind of pull you. But fortunately, we can just kind of annihilate it, and we can just destroy this treasure giant and get the last Cardo item with Aberration. I'll go ahead and show what Aberration does right here. And it basically spawns, whenever you kill a mob, it spawns a slime, an explosive slime that can aggro onto other mobs. And whenever that gets a kill, that can also aggro onto, it can chain itself, as I mentioned before. And that right there is one of the best strats to get out of the Doom water. It's to wind charge and then place blocks under yourself. It is definitely by far the most viable strat to get out of the Doom water. However, you have to remember, if you have hazard protection or blast protection, it'll reduce the effectiveness of the wind charges. But since we have pretty low hazard protection, we can wind charge out pretty effectively. But that also means we are pretty vulnerable to charge creepers and gas and giga gas and stuff. But I'm sure that won't be that big a deal. Yeah, as you can see right here, you can kind of riptide, at least in the interior part down here, you can kind of riptide to any particular part if you're if you know where you're going. But obviously right there, we kind of did a pretty bad job at it. And we're still getting attacked because there's actually, this Citadel has a lot of long-range Giga Gas spawners that do not come with target blocks and TNT. And that's just intentional. I don't really want you to this one is pretty much intended to be the harder Citadel. It's going to be a lot more effort to take it on than the other Citadels, since the footing is so unstable. There's so much, the environmental hazard is so much more prominent, and there's so much more spawner clusters, and the Giga Gas are a bit more effort to deal with. And up here in this chest, there's actually something really, really funny. I shift clicked the netherite item into this chest, and I forgot to decorate it with like obsidian and stuff, which is my bad. But I found it so funny that when people open that chest, they're just like, their reaction is just so funny when they just see I just shift click the item in there with no chest decoration. So I obviously could have throughout the updates corrected that mistake, but if something is just funny enough and it doesn't cause that much problems, then I'm okay with it. And here is the Doom Water skeleton. I actually use it intentionally to break my armor right here. I go at, because these pants that I'm using currently, they're good, but I'm trying to break them to put on the aberration pants that the the treasure giant dropped. So there we successfully put it on, and now whenever we get a kill, we're gonna start spawning slimes, and those slimes are gonna start killing other mobs, and whenever they kill the other mobs, it's going to spawn even more stuff. And that right there is a Doom Water potion spawner. It's just it spawns a Bad Omen, because whenever you get hit with Bad Omen, you actually get hit with Doom Water, essentially. Which is what the Doom Water skeletons are also shooting you with. They're shooting, like, tipped arrows with, like, Bad Omen or something. So whenever you have that potion effect, it's either Bad Omen or Trial Omen. I think it's Bad Omen, or it might be Trial Omen. I don't actually remember. But it's one of those, and whenever you have one of those, you get damaged 20 times a second until you run out of it. Which is pretty brutal, obviously. But, fortunately, since the duration's so low on those spawners, it doesn't actually hit you with it every single time. Because, it only actually damages you if, I think it either only damages you once a sec, it either only registers once a second, or it, the potion doesn't actually give you the effect, if it's too low of a duration, which is also pretty cool. So it basically, like, is a unintentional nerf to the Doom Water potions, but I'm okay with it. People already have a pretty rough time with the Doom Water effect, so it's okay. And I'm hoping I reduced the volume of my my game audio here, because it is incredibly noisy for me personally while I'm commentating over this, but that's okay. As I mentioned, this dungeon is intentionally meant to be done last, and it's intentionally very punishing to come here early. The only reason to come here early is because it does have the most netherite item pieces, but I'm willing to bet a lot of people will get kind of demolished by the hazards and the spawner density, especially if they've come here before getting other OP Cardo items. But fun fact, this upper section with all the bookshelves and dripstone, just these upper parts, Tyler actually helped without these. So shout out to Tyler, he hopped on for a sec to do this section, because I really didn't want to. Because this Citadel actually took the span of a month. It took like pretty much the entirety of February for Kango to do the exterior. And then once the exterior was done, I locked in with Aviatic and to do the interiors. And we clanked it out. Some of these sections are absolutely criminal, which we'll probably see later on. This is the longest Citadel episode by far. The other ones were between 20 and 30 minutes. This one's like 35 minutes cut down. And that's because it's just so much raw content that we're gonna get through. And Fortunately, though, it's not really a slog. It's actually pretty satisfying to full clear it out. Mainly because of all the insane bullshit that we have. So all we have to do is just kind of avoid the ultra hazards. And just get our bearings. But we will absolutely not be getting anything, any item remotely worthwhile aside from the aberration pants from the treasure giant here. Like the whatchamacallit, the netherite items, the other netherite items are good, but we're already using pretty much the set that we will be using for the rest of the map, because our chest plate is from a treasure giant, our pants are from a treasure giant, and I think our boots are from a treasure giant. I don't remember if we are using Deadeye, but we might not be using the Deadeye item, but we are using a lot of the OP Cardo stuff, like even among the netherite items. But the reason why this one took so long is because Kango is pretty busy. He's a pretty busy person, but he did intend to finish it, and it didn't take him. At least it didn't take him like multiple months. Like even by Kango standards, he finished pretty fast, actually, shockingly enough. Only for a month to do the Citadel. Obviously, I would have preferred if he worked a little bit faster, but he's a busy person, and he has a, he touches grass. I gotta respect it. And at least he finished the exterior. I didn't really need him to do the gameplay because I can kind of do that myself. But yeah, it is definitely way much more content than the other Citadels by far, because it uses so much of its space, and there's just so much space to use. But it is pretty diabolical for a lot of people. I know a couple people did need to cheese this dungeon just because they just couldn't fathom the concept was just unfathomable to them, which is okay. It's definitely not for everyone. It's just like insane bullshit. Like but as you can see, I do give you the means to tackle it, and plenty other people have finished the map. So clearly it's not that unfathomable. But it might look like it's a breeze for us, but it's kind of because it is when you have the right stuff and you know what's going on. Like I have full map knowledge, obviously. I know exactly what's going on. There's more of these unique items that are pretty bad. This is I'll go ahead and put the stats of this water bucket item right here. It's like, I don't even know. It gives you high fall resistance, but when you fall too high, it just destroys you. But that's okay. But yeah, Aviatic had a helping hand in a lot of these back sections that are not within that main interior. That main interior, I think he made like 2 or 3 of the sections, like those corridors, and then I made the rest. I think Gizmo made one as well, which is chill. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention, we have this Crimson Log item that we've been using. It's under the Skibbity toilet in one of the main interior sections. It's basically just a log with infinity, a crimson log. So it's an infinity block, right? But it's also an edible item that is a bit more effective than steak, that has a bit of a longer eat time, but it's still very good because it's infinity good food and it's an infinity block. And what else? And it also has some lore. You can try to figure out what the lore possibly means, and the fact and the context of where it was placed. But I won't get into the nitty-gritty of that. Fortunately though, these sections are definitely easier that we're going to, because there's a lot less prevalent Doom Water. There's still Doom Water sections, but like it's definitely akin to the more whatchamacallit, how do I describe the more familiar Doomy gameplay, especially now the fact that we have agility. I think the pants that we got from the I don't remember what piece we have that has agility, but we're basically getting jump boost from something, which is gonna make this, is gonna make it very easy to traverse vertical sections, and B, it's going to let us escape Doom Water a lot more easily. But obviously we don't have there's still webs everywhere, and we can get caught in them. And if we get caught in a web and a drop charge creeper jumps us, then we are still completely toast. So we do need to be careful about that, which is why we're being a bit more cautious. As you can see, the item quality here is still complete ass. So if anyone tries to rely on this middle Citadel for loot, good luck. All you're really getting is the Crimson Log and the Aberration Pants, and that's if the Treasure Giant didn't despawn if you died within the Citadel. So it is the hardest one by far. Some people do not do this one last. Actually, a handful of people do not do this one last. And so they're like, why the hell is green wool so hard? Or why the hell is red wool so hard? And that's why. It's because it's not meant to be your green wool. And but it is meant to be the hardest one. So it is just a bit of a mind game, really. Like, I could have just intentionally made it black and made it very, very hard, but black wool gives, I'll just tell you now, black wool gives you creative mode. So I can't have people rushing this and getting black wool. But since I knew people would know that this would be intended to be the hardest one, the mind game there is that I want to punish people who try to do it first with the difficulty and with the shit loot that I give you. And this is like just some bullshit section that Aviatic concocted. It's dropper, and if you drop into the wrong side, you get dripstoned, and it gets even worse if we keep going. And here we start using, I don't know why, we definitely should have just been using all of our consumables. Here's another bullshit dropper section. There's like every side has like a clutch item, web, slime blocks, hay bales, and something else, and like water, but it's so bad because they're covered in barriers. So it's really just some bullshit. And then here we have a black concrete maze. It's just, Aviatic insisted there would be like more floors of this dog shit, but I insisted that he stop at 2 floors, and yeah. So fortunately, it doesn't take that long to get through this section. All of this side shit is completely unnecessary. You absolutely do not have to do any of this nonsense, especially because it's the loot that it might give you is just terrible. But the idea is the concept behind the gameplay was just meant to be was more fair there for the shock factor, which it does like the main reaction that I want from people looking at this area is, are you dead ass right now, bro? And I think we do achieve that, which is pretty funny. Every time I look at these sections, I just can't help but have a smile on my face, because it's just so intentionally bullshit, and not even like an unfair way. It's just like, what the hell am I even looking at right now, man? And here's that's another mob that I forgot to mention. That's an upgraded version of the magma cubes with accelerated movement and creepers on their head. It's a charge creeper with it's basically just the same thing, but with a charge creeper. And I think it's a little bit bigger. And now there was another wacky section with dripstones on ladders, and just the classic vertical sections crafted out of Axiom Symmetry tool. But here, whatchamacallit, agility and step height go actually are so helpful here, because we can just ascend these obstacles without even trying. Here's another one of those tier 1 through 4 giga random chests. Obviously won't really get much mileage out of it unless it has like a notch apple or health pots. But mostly the stuff we'll get out of it is gonna be completely terrible, and that's okay. There is a lot of people don't actually like this area because there's so many ways to go, and that's okay, because you're kind of just meant to. It's kind of like that all roads lead to Rome thing, where you can kind of go in any direction, and you'll eventually get towards the end, because the end it's really just the middle upper part, right? So you can kind of full clear this if you really chose to. A very small number of people that get here even remote. Look at that, we just one-shot the villager and get Bad Omen. And here's this awesome painting. We thought it would be so funny to have this painting when they got here, because of all the bullshit that the player goes through to get here. So that painting is there, which is pretty. It's pretty funny. It's that stock image of the shackles being broken. But once you get here, it's really not all that bad, right? Like, it is. There's gas. there's a high number of spawners, but it's really nothing crazy that you haven't already been through. And here we got a poise and melee protection item, which is actually very good when I think about it, because poise makes it so it's basically like ultra protection when you're at high health. And we go ahead and do more of this side stuff. We don't go towards the end. We actually go towards these side structures. These are just more towers, giga towers, connected to these citadels. And we were gonna put, we were thinking about putting keys to lock the final section in these sections, in these like symmetry tool bullshit sections. But we chose not to. It still has a tripwire hook to signify the concept of a key. But I think it would have been a bad idea to put a key to force people to full clear the Citadel, because it takes a while. And I think I would only really want people to clear the Citadel, to full clear the Citadel, if they went out of their way and chose to. Like, the only real reason to do this is if you somehow need more spawner gems. And the gameplay is interesting enough. It's just, you know, more axiom, symmetry tool, vertical bullshit. And if you have the means to do it, you've got the means to do it. As you can see, it's really not that much effort for us. But obviously, full clearing this is a complete nightmare if you are unequipped with the stuff for it. I know Aviatic spent like, I don't know, like several hours just in this Citadel, because he did it first, which makes it his green wool, which means he does not have infinite attack speed, he does not have the giga kill effect, and he does not have a lot of the OP netherite items. So he's going to be getting absolutely overwhelmed. His defenses are so much lower, and I don't think he quite had the meta down for getting out of the Doom Water, which I'm willing to guess makes the area very unbearable for a lot of people. But that's okay, because, you know, it's a linear branching map. If it's too hard for you and you're getting completely demolished by the Citadel, just go to the other Citadels. But some people, I don't know what's wrong with them. They just can't help themselves but finish what they start or something. They just, if they're getting overwhelmed by the Citadel, it's not enough to stop them from trying to full clear it. That's okay, because if they do it first or second, it means their last area will be a lot easier and less of a nightmare for them, which is fine. And here's the infinite XP that we've been getting. Like, I wonder how many levels we would be getting if we didn't have the Cyan Wool constantly setting it back to 100, because as I've mentioned, the whatchamacallit, challenge mode doubles the gnats, and the gnat spawn count when you're in the Citadels ramps up even more. So let me just try to double check real quick just how many gnats are spawning. It is definitely a lot, obviously. Let me check. Give me 1 second. I'm just looking inside my files. I think it's in here. And yeah, so I'll go ahead and tell you the spawn counts right now. By default, on normal, it is 45. And then in the Citadels, when you go through green, red, and black, it ramps up to 70, 85, and 100. So when you are on black wool, you have over twice as many gnat spawns spawning. And it is crazy. And then on challenge mode, the default is 90, and then when you are in green, red, and black, it goes up to 140, and then 170, and then 200. So currently, up to 200 gnat spawns can be active right now, which is absolutely crazy. But that's okay, because right now, I actually, that wasn't actually always the case. I only did that because in the original version, there was not nearly enough fodder mobs to for all your OP Cardo effects to trigger. Like, there was actually not enough mobs. There actually needs to be an insane amount of mob spam for these OP Cardo effects to feel right. It's actually crazy. So I'm pretty happy with it. Some people get kind of they cannot fathom the sheer quantity of gnats, but that's okay. And here we're actually already done with a majority of the side content. I think there's some stuff we missed a little bit, but we finished clearing the side, the main inside. We finished clearing the 2 side towers, and funnily enough, I made one of them with Axiom Symmetry Tool, and then for the other side, all I did was copy it, rotate it 45 degrees, and then paste it in. Like, one side is literally just the other side, but rotated 45 degrees. And we finished the back side, which Aviatic did. Which, once we're done with that, we really only have the final section left, which is quite possibly the most cinematic section of them all. This is definitely the sloggiest area by far if you're not equipped for it. But as you can see, this is the intended play route, which is pretty funny. As you can see, this is the power fantasy I described. I would honestly argue this is, when you have the right stuff, this endgame is easier than most maps. As you can see, like, look at this, the game is literally just playing itself, even with this insane amount of mobs on hard mode with all this nonsense. It's honestly kind of beautiful, the sheer power of Cardo, at least in this version. I don't know if it's still like this in the latest versions, but dear God, is it powerful in this map. Which you can see why I had to go through so many steps, go through so many different hoops to just make the map even remotely challenging. Because this is how I actually expected a lot of playthroughs to go. And we go again and just fall into the Doom Water again. But which is why I only rated the map hard on map release, because I was like, oh, I'm willing to bet people won't be super optimized, but I'm guessing the map will just play itself at this point. But a lot of people don't go through the kind of Doom loop way before they get into a good loot spiral, a loot snowball, sorry. But even more than that, a lot of people actually Doom loop and never even go through never even get the items to whatchamacallit, start a loot snowball until they get brown, because brown just keep inventory. But if you do this map on challenge mode first try, you are either going to Doom loop out of your absolute mind, or you're going to rage quit, because unless you know exactly what you're doing with Cardo, there is no way you are going to be ready for because there is a lot of knowledge involved to succeed, right? Like, you need to know, like, the traps, you need to know how to counter the Doom script meta, you need to understand Cardo, and all that nonsense. You need to understand the sheer power that Cardo has. But here's the final section. That glass section was kind of ass. I don't know what Rock and Red was cooking, but he made it. I think it's sort of like that. You kind of just like have this glass thing, and you blow up TNT to get to each section, but it like just doesn't work right. It's just ass. But you know, it might not be great, but it's what we've got. And here is the final section. It's this super menacing vertical ascent with an absolutely insane number of spawners. But fortunately for us, we've got a Giga NASA PC, so we won't be lagging out of our minds. So this is probably one of the first times that you will see a really not laggy attempt at this section. And I go ahead and delusionally mine some of these spawners like it's gonna do anything. But these are the spawners that from earlier have a random diamond piece from the loot chests in terms of armor and in terms of loot. Originally, each one of these wither skeletons had a level 30 Cardo enchant on their armor piece and level 30 Cardo enchant on their boots, which is a lot, I'll admit. It's like almost 200 spawners, I think. And yeah, fortunately though, it is actually really easy to just go past this section, because it's just like a million skeletons dropping down on the, and none of them will actually, very few of them will actually aggro you. And since for a lot of people it's even easier, because since they're lagging, they can just build up with with no consequence. But yeah, that was the final Citadel. That was actually very, very, very easy. And here we're going to go ahead and mine all these Citadel Wither Skeleton spawners to go ahead and inflate our stats and our spawner mining stats. We don't mine all of them. Cause we don't mind all the spawners, because there's still like this ring of spawners on the render Citadel. There's all the gas spawners outside. There's quite a few anti-cheese spawners left, and boom, we finished the map, and that was pretty chill. I don't know what to say. This is not the first attempt I had at this. I did have about like 7 or 8 other attempts where I died in like blue wool and like magenta and some other areas. But yeah. This is the successful attempt at a deathless challenge run. It didn't actually take as long as you might expect, but we did it. I hope you enjoyed watching, but don't go too far. These are our personal stats for this playthrough. It's 0 deaths, 0 totems, a bunch of other stuff, and yeah, when you win, you get this little challenge trophy, which is pretty cool. And now we're going to go ahead and move into the stat spreadsheet. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my current recording and move on to the last one. Alrighty, and now we're going to be looking at the stats for the map. First, we're going to be looking at sort of the downloads. So as you can see, from Mediafire, we got about 1,800 downloads at 1796. This is from mostly the repository, because I think about 1,300 downloads came from the CTM repo. And that's because Narfu's trailer links to the repo, I believe. However, this also includes Planet Minecraft, Minecraft forums, and some other websites like MC Creations downloads. All that leads to the Mediafire, which adds up to 1796. CurseForge and Sticky Piston rehosted themselves, and from CurseForge we have 65 downloads, and Sticky Piston we got 98. So I would say that it is still worth spreading your map across other websites besides just the repository. Especially because unless you've got a high-performing trailer from like Narfu, for example, you won't really get that much. And all that together adds up to a little bit below 2,000 downloads at 1959, which is very good. Especially because this is a hard map, and from the way it's described in the descriptions, it could be perceived as a very hard map. So I'm actually shocked that it even has this many downloads, which is pretty cool. And out of those downloads, I was able to find about 28 completions across screenshots and like streams and stuff, which is pretty cool. About 30 people were able to beat this hard map, allegedly, and which means about 1.43% of people who've downloaded this map were able to complete it, which means if you were able to complete this map, you are within the top 1.5% of Gluttony players, which is pretty cool to see, because I have seen a lot of screen shares, a lot of videos of the map. A lot of people kind of just quit at white or orange or something. So if you can beat this map, high five, bro. You've earned it, So let's go ahead and look at some of the completions now. Alrighty, these are all the recorded completions of the map I could find. I don't actually know how many of these are actually legitimate. I only know is that these 5 playthroughs were recorded, so those are the only verifiable ones. But for this segment's sake, let's just pretend everyone here beat it legitimately. But yeah, the latest playthrough was completed by Aurabolt, and anything beyond this, I probably won't include. I might add it to the sheet, I might not. I don't really care that much after this video, because I just wanted to see the stats all in one pile together. But I'm sure more people will play the map. If you happen to play this map after this, go ahead and share the stats. I'm still interested. I might share this spreadsheet with other people if you want to add it on to yourself if you're interested. But I probably won't be working on it myself after this video. We'll go ahead and run over the averages real quick. The average difficulty took place on normal. The average deaths was 66. Average totems popped was 11. Average spawners mined was 1269. I don't actually know how many spawners are in the map. I think it's gotta be at least like 1700 because of this. I think it's like between 17 and 1800 if I'm guessing. But you know what? I'm actually gonna go ahead and check right now just how many spawners are in the map. Alright, I've just checked, and according to Spawner Tweaker, there is 2,044 spawners in the map. I don't actually know if this is completely true, but that's what it's telling me. how much is 17 out of 20? That's like 85%. I guess the highest amount of spawners that have been broken were 85% of the spawners of the map, and the average person broke about 60% of the spawners, which is pretty cool. The average amount of mobs were killed were about 4k, the average amount of torches placed were about 3k. But obviously this is kind of blech, these two, because these are easily farmable to inflate the stats, but we'll just include it anyways. The average amount of time it took to beat the map was about 12.5 hours, which is kind of funny because the map advertises itself at 5 to 10 hours of playtime. Alright, so let's look at difficulty now. So we got one person, Imaginature, beat the map on peaceful mode with these stats. Everett beat the map on easy. Most people beat the map on normal. Quilver and TJ beat the map on hard mode, and Vertigan, AZ Tyrants, and myself beat the map on challenge mode. Alright, so let's look at the death count now. Mikimoto and Pinksevi combined had 382 deaths. This is high, of course. This is from a co-op playthrough, so obviously their combined deaths is going to be pretty darn high. Jess had the most solo deaths at 293, and then Sanders and Matt, and these are the only people that had triple digit count deaths. Everyone else did pretty much fine. Somewhere between, like, I think getting like 30 or less deaths is pretty fine for me. So everyone up to here, good job, high five. Except for the peaceful playthrough. That's a bit of a that's kind of bound to happen. TJ died once from soft locking himself in white wool and then having to /kill himself. The sketch only died 15 times, which is pretty cool. Antu died 10 times, Nappy died 7 times, and AZ Tyrants, Quilver, and myself did not die in our submitted playthroughs. Link popped the most totems at 57, Nappy at 44, the sketch at 40, TJ at 32, Aura at 31. That's quite a lot of totems, but sometimes you need it because when you're not on challenge mode, they actually are very useful. And then pretty much everyone with single digit totems or just one totem. I don't know why people only pop one totem, and these are just 0 totems. It's kind of expected that you don't pop any totems on challenge mode, but because it still clears your inventory. And Vertigan just popped the KVT totem for the trolls. All right, let's look at our completionists who mined 1 billion spawners. AZ Tyrants mined the most spawners at 1741. The duo playthrough mined 1611, and then this range, it doesn't really matter between like 11 and 1600. There is a lot of spawners. I'm actually surprised there's this many. And this isn't super duper accurate because this doesn't even include the spawners that people blow up with TNT. But it's whatever. The sub 4 digit spawner count is for our people who just wanted to get to the end and didn't really want to deal with all that nonsense. That's understandable. Congrats on beating the map anyways. And let's see how many mob kills people got. AZ Tyrants again at the top with 8,000. The duo playthrough got 7.5k. Same thing with Aura Bolts. And then I killed them a lot of mobs as well. Not nearly as much because there's like a 2,000 kill gap. And then pretty much everything under that is pretty similar. It's really just dependent on how much time you invest into a full clearing, because you really don't have to full clear much of the map. Down here, there's again low engagement with the map, but that's alright. But again, this stat is also farmable as well, because you can just make a mob grinder and farm 1 million kills. So this is more of a for fun stat anyways, but I digress. Similar situation with the torches. This is a farmable for fun stat. I doubt most people would farm this stat because it's kind of a nothing burger. But the duo placed the most torches. This is kind of expected because it's just 2 people placing torches. The easy mode playthrough got pretty close at 7k. AZ Tyrants at 6.5k. TJ at 5k, and then from that point on, it's a pretty understandable decline. I guess it's just a lot of people don't really care that much because in this map, I'm not gonna lie, torches aren't even that great. And let's go ahead and look at the playtime. And again, this is only the playtime that's tracked through the checkpoint, which doesn't actually go up when you are near a checkpoint, which is why at the start of the map, you'll see your playtime is still at 0. Because I don't actually want to count the time that you spend sorting your chest. So true playtime is probably like I don't know, like 50% higher than, like, take this number and then multiply it by like 1.5 or something. And that's probably the true playtime if you're including the time spent at the checkpoints and stuff. Because some people spend a lot of time like anviling and sorting and stuff. Obviously the peaceful playthrough will be the shortest because it's just kind of walking through the area. Quilver spent the most the shortest amount of real playtime, and then me, and then Slime King, and then Vertigan, and then it steadily goes up, which is kind of expected. The longest playthroughs though, which are pretty interesting, are TJ's, Aurabolt's, the Duo's playthrough, and AZ Tyrant's. So this is the average rating. It's basically just calculating the percentiles of each one of these, and then it's just averaging them out. This column is less relevant. I'm gonna go ahead and look more at the performance rating. The performance rating has more weight to deaths, difficulty, totems, a little bit of weight on spawners, but mob kills and torches have a much lower weight because they're farmable and a lot less relevant. Time played as well, because I think the time played in comparison to all of this is like it does have a bit of a purpose. It's kind of like the efficiency calculator, if you get what I'm saying. Like, if you full clear the map but it takes you like 10 times as long as the other guy, I would not call that a really efficient playthrough. But I digress. So obviously the peaceful guy will have the lowest performance. Jess kind of doom looped a lot and had pretty low stats overall, but that's all right. And then Everett had pretty good stats actually, but the easy mode will obviously take it down a notch. Then Aurabolt, who got pretty good mob kills, but pretty low on everything else. Sanders is kind of just low across the board from the look of it. I think the deaths is what's really bringing him down here. Then Mouse, this is honestly not a terrible playthrough from the look of it. It's just the fact that there's a lot of people who had a better playthrough from the look of it. It's pretty close to average, but I think it's definitely the totems that are bringing it down, if anything. And the fact that there's nothing really bringing her up in this playthrough, aside from a little bit having a slightly above better than average playtime. Link also had a pretty decent playthrough. His time is a little bit below average, but his totems are bringing him down a lot here, but that's alright. Nappy also had a pretty great playthrough, but again, the amount of totems he had to use brings his performance down quite a bit. Oza Skies here had a pretty decent playthrough on average. Like, it may look like he had a pretty low torch placement thing, but this doesn't actually have that much weight, and the problem here is that he didn't actually have any factor of his was really that great, like no super green factors here. The Sketch had a pretty good playthrough as well. He had pretty low death count, but again, the totems has a pretty significant weight for sure. And here's where we're going to the 40s. Cooley had a pretty good playthrough, but again, nothing super duper great in his playthrough, but it's slightly within average. But since it's weighted more heavily with the difficulty, deaths, and totems, it's not super great. That's all right. Slime King overall had pretty good stats. He had a pretty high death count, honestly, but it's still close to the average death count. He didn't need to use that many totems, but he didn't really engage with the map that much, which was why his performance rating is so low. But he did spend a pretty reasonable amount of time in there. Like, he didn't have to waste too much time clearing out the dungeons, but that means he didn't actually get that much done, which is why his performance is close to the average. Matt had a slightly better playthrough. He did die a lot more and spent twice as much time as Slime King, but he engaged with the map a lot more, which brings his performance up quite a good bit. Zayd had pretty close to the average playthrough. The average performance you'd think is a 50%, but since there's no 100% or 0 and there's not enough of a sample size, it only really goes up to 45% on average. So this is the closest score we have to the average. Zayd had a which is actually pretty good. The average completion is actually pretty good. It's quite a few deaths, honestly, on normal. No totems needed, and pretty close to the average amount of engagement. No torches really needed, and pretty close to the average playtime. Nice job, Zayd. And here we're getting to the playthroughs that were above average performance. Saihoku had 69 deaths, no totems, pretty close to, and very close to, actually, to average engagement, or very few torches placed, and very close to the average playtime, which leads to a pretty close to above average playthrough, which is mainly because of the totems. The duo had the most deaths, obviously, which you would think, since it has such a high weight, would bring the score down, which it probably does. But because they didn't actually use like very many totems at all, and they had probably some of the highest engagement across the board, which is pretty darn funny. And but their playtime brings them down a bit. So they had pretty good stats and pretty bad stats, which brings them close to the average, slightly above average though. Only 10 deaths from Anter, very nice. Only 4 totems, very nice again. Above average engagement, slightly below average torches placed, and a little bit above average playtime, which leads to a pretty good performance rating. Nice job, Anter. Gilles has a pretty funny performance, slightly better than Anter's according to this. Almost twice as many deaths, way less totems used at 1. A little bit less engagement, but you can tell they still cranked through a lot of the map. No torches placed is pretty funny. This would normally bring this is why there's such a huge gap in their performance and average rating. Since torches don't really truly matter in their performance rating, it doesn't actually impact their performance rating that much, which is why it's still at 50% and 4 hours less than the average playtime. Very nice. Vladimir had a pretty high death count for how high his performance rating it was, but that's because he didn't really use that many totems, and his engagement was pretty close to being like decent enough. And since there's nothing really bad here bringing his score down, he has a pretty high score, which it's really just a well-rounded performance, and like 2.5 hours below playtime, which is very nice. Good job, Vladimir. This is Sequex performance rating. This is actually a harder version of the map, I'd say. So this is honestly even better than what's advertised, because this is actually a beta test completion at 43 deaths, 4 totems used, pretty high engagement. Keep in mind a ton of the map spawners, slightly above average mob kills, quite a lot of torches placed, and a below average time spent, which is pretty good overall. Nothing bringing him down, and he's got some pretty decent scores going for him. Nice job. And here we got TJ's at a slightly better performance rating than Sequex. He used a lot of totems and spent a lot of time, which is probably what brings his score a lot lower, because totems and time played is a pretty high measure of efficiency according to the stat. But overall, his other stats were pretty highly engaged, above average engagement in spawners and mobs, and he placed quite a few torches, which boosts his performance a decent amount. Nice job, TJ. And here we have Vertigan's playthrough. This was completed pretty close to a few, like I think the day after it released, or pretty close to that. He played on challenge mode, one of the few people who played on challenge mode. Nice job, Vertigan. Obviously, that led him to die quite a lot, but honestly, he died less than people who played on normal, which is pretty cool. He popped 1 totem, which was the KVT totem. He had shockingly close to average engagement with the map spawners and mobs, at 1100 and 40 and about 4K, which is kind of shocking considering this is like a super doom looping playthrough. I'm pretty sure. Very few torches placed. I think this guy uses Fulbright, but that's okay. And he spent a pretty short amount of time in the map, which leads him to a pretty good performance rating at 56.75%. Good job. And here we're in the top 3 performances. At 3rd place, we have Culver, who had a hard mode playthrough at 0 deaths with 3 totems. Pretty close to average engagement, and he has a very good time spent at the map. Very efficient. Nice job, Culver. And here we have AZ Tyrants. This is probably my proudest playthrough that is not mine, because mainly because it's not me. I don't have a full map knowledge, and it was fully documented on Billy. I obviously wasn't gonna watch through all that because it was a lot of footage, but it was a challenge mode playthrough with 0 deaths, 0 totems, and very good engagement. He was soupy, like full cleared the map practically, but he wasn't very efficient at it in a timely manner. He spent the highest amount of time in the map, but despite that, he still had a very good playthrough at 81% performance rating. Good job. And then there's my playthrough that we just witnessed, challenge mode, deathless, no totems, above average in a couple of these, and a pretty short completion time. So we were able to practically full clear the map in about like less than a quarter of the time that the other guy spent, which is pretty good at 92%. And that's the stats of the map. These guys, I didn't have. They submitted their win screenshots, but they didn't share their stats, and they don't have the worlds anymore. I asked them, so that's those guys. But that was Gluttony. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one, next series or something. Good night.